Competence becomes a curse, the curious case of the overqualified imposter. At some point in your adult life, perhaps somewhere between your 5th certificate of expertise and your 1000th existential cup of coffee, you might find yourself confronting an unusual sort of dilemma. You've done the hard work, you've learned things, many things, languages, systems, the ins and outs of ideas so complex they make most people's heads spin. You've achieved goals that would be bullet points in someone else's lifetime highlight reel, and yet when faced with a new job or task, something peculiar happens. You feel like a complete and utter fraud. Not because you can't do it, but because you can, almost immediately, and that, paradoxically, feels wrong. Welcome to the strange psychological terrain of the overqualified imposter, a curious creature that arises not from incompetence, but from excess competence paired with a lack of challenge. If you've ever breezed through a difficult onboarding, solved a complex system in 10 minutes flat, or found yourself quietly stunned that you're being paid to do something that feels like rearranging Lego, this might resonate with you. Let's unpack this phenomenon, preferably with sarcasm, biscuits, and a knowing nod to the sheer absurdity of being good at things. The problem with new challenges. There's a distinct narrative that society feeds us. New challenges are meant to test us, stretch us, make us grow. Cue the montage of late night study sessions, inspirational music, tearful breakthroughs. But what happens when the challenge just folds? You get the brief, you stare at the system, you make coffee, you solve it. Surely it can't be that simple. So you double back, assuming you've missed something. Triple check, ask unnecessary questions to look like you're struggling a bit. Then comes the inevitable conclusion. Either this task was insultingly easy, or you're a deluded genius. Neither possibility feels especially comforting. But here's a kicker. When something feels too easy, you start to distrust your own perception. You think, surely I'm missing some nuance, or worse, everyone else is playing 5D chess and I'm playing snakes and ladders. That's when the imposter syndrome creeps in, not because you aren't capable, but because you are suspiciously so. The internal versus the external motivation game. Now, this curious self-doubt tends to show up more with external demands, jobs, gigs, social expectations, than it does with internal ones. When you're personally driven to do something, whether it's write a novel, master quantum mechanics, or crochet a lifelike hedgehog, the motivation is laced with meaning. You care. You've got a skin in the game. Even if it's hard, you want to do it. There's a delicious sense of challenge because it's your challenge. But a new job, a dull brief, a task clearly written by someone who's never met the upper limits of their own potential, that's where things unravel. You complete it quickly, efficiently even, with flair. But then you feel bad about it. As if your success somehow invalidates the difficulty of the task. As if you've pulled a fast one on the universe. Alternatively, you complete the task to the required standard. This may be lower than your personal standards, but it's what they want though, isn't it? It's a ridiculous sentiment when you stop to think about it, but deeply relatable for those used to operating at a high level, especially environments that mistake new for difficult. It's not you, it's your baseline. The trouble with achieving a lot over time is that your baseline gets weird. What once took weeks now takes hours. What once felt like a triumph now barely registers. Your mental bar for challenging has crept so high that the average task feels like a warm-up lap. And so when something external comes along and declares itself a proper challenge and you complete it with unnerving ease, you don't celebrate, you worry, you question. You wonder if maybe, just maybe, you've overstimulated yourself, or worse, that your entire career has been an elaborate fluke held together with post-it notes and caffeine. The spoiler, it hasn't. You're just advanced. So, reframing the game. So what do? Those of you haunted by the ghosts of underwhelming challenges and creeping self-doubt, it's simple. You reframe. You stop asking, was that task hard enough? And start asking, what's the hidden game here? Maybe the real challenge isn't in completing the task, but perhaps doing it with elegance, or mentoring someone else through it, or in spotting the flaw no one else saw, or turning the banal into the beautiful with some creative flair. In other words, we create internal meaning where external meaning is lacking. We gamify the mundane. We inject purpose into the perfunctory. And perhaps most importantly, we give ourselves permission to be good at things without guilt, without suspicion, and without endlessly pretending that we're struggling just to fit in with the narrative of hardship. So, summary, with a cup of coffee, being excellent doesn't mean that every task needs to be a mountain. Sometimes it's a gentle hill, and that's fine. Let others do the dramatic climbs. You're here to redesign the map. So next time you find yourself breezing through a supposedly difficult challenge and feeling that little imposter voice whispering, "That was too easy," smile and politely whisper back, "No, I'm just that good." Now, go and make another cup of coffee. You've earned it.